All right. Well, I had a little bit of time in between classes, so I thought I'd come down to one of my favorite spots, which is the water, where I have so many memories here. So many memories. And this place is mine. Like, there's something really awesome about having a place that's yours, you know, where you go to it even when it's not pretty. Like right now it's very turbulent. Hang on. It's turbulent, it's, you know, gray and dark and gloomy looking, but it's mine and it's wonderful. And my best friend, well, one of my best friends, she used to live right on the water. And literally, the tales of that house. It was right next to these train tracks, where literally the train would stop in front of their house. They lived in a cabin, and the train would literally just stop right in front of their house. And you'd have to, if you wanted to get to their house, sometimes you had to climb over the I forget what they're called. They're the little, you know, the metal connectors. You literally had to climb over those to get to their house. And when the train would go by, the whole house would rattle. Oh, good times. Anyway, and this was a place where I spent a lot of time in my childhood, and it's one of my favorite little spots. I absolutely adore it. It's very you don't really get the expanse of the ocean. It honestly kind of looks like a big lake. But it's pretty, and I like it, and it's mine. So today I thought I would talk about, and I may do a more detailed video on this, but I wanted to get this off my chest, why I would be a purple-haired feminist. Lord, I thought I was prepared for this. Okay, so let's see. Let's start from the very beginning, shall we? So, there are certain women who are just born with more of an awareness of the male brain, and I have always been that way. I recognized from a very early age that girls and boys were just incredibly different, just like from, you know, probably from 2 onward. And when I was very, very little, I preferred the company of boys because they were more free. They were more, I was a very bold child, very, what would you call that? Oh, strong-willed. I was a very strong-willed child, and I have memories of one of the things that I used to do. So I'd always go into my parents' room, and they were trying to wean me off of that, you know. And I remember one morning, my mother had locked the door, and I didn't even rattle the door. Like, I rattled the door a little bit, and I was like, she locked it. And I could not believe it. And I took my little fist, pound, 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 mama, mama. I just couldn't believe it. I was incensed. And then I started looking around the room, and I was like, how am I going to get out of here? I'm going to plot my escape. And so I was looking around, and I was literally plotting how to get outside the window. And then I don't remember. I think I pulled a desk, like maybe not the desk. I think I was too little to pull the desk over. But you know, in your mind, sometimes when you picture yourself when you were really little, like everything is much, much bigger in size. So in my mind, I was pulling over this huge chair, which probably wasn't very big at all, but to me it was, you know, ginormous. And so I was heaving and hoeing, and then I stood up on the chair or tried to climb up on it, was too weak to pull the window open, drat, you know. So I was a very strong-willed child, and I was the firstborn, and I was used to kind of being the center of everybody's attention, I think, when I was very little. And then that changed dramatically when I got older. I hear a bell. Is that the train? It is. Oh, it's the tram. I have not seen it yet. And then when I got, but anyway, so my best friend was a boy named Michael, which happens to be my brother's name and my father's name. And I thought I was obliged to marry the first boy that I met. And I was quite unhappy about it. I was like, I appreciate you as a friend, but I don't want to marry you. But apparently that's the rule in life. you know how you have like you have these certain rules that you like think the world adheres to, and you stick with them. So I was, I was going to be loyal because I'm a very dutiful person. So I was like, all right, I will marry you, all that stuff. And I never talked to him about it. It was just, it was like, I don't know. It's just, I thought that's what happened when you got older. And we had such fun together. I was very, I liked a lot of visual things. I probably have some form of ADD. I would not be surprised. Well, I know I have ADD, but I don't know. I don't know if I can say that I was autistic. I do have some things that I think are slightly autistic. Anyway, I just liked a lot of the things that boys tend to gravitate towards. And I'm not saying all boys are autistic. It's just, there were like, I loved spinning things. I loved, flashing lights. I loved, those kinds of sensory things. One of our favorite things to do, me and Michael, I had this old record player, and it was like a child's record player, and I had these little boxes of soap, like these fake boxes of soap. I don't even know how this is possible because of the needle thing, like the arm. I think I lifted up that must have lifted up the arm, but we would stick the soap boxes on there and spin it around and around and around, watch all the colors meld together, and we thought it was the best thing ever. So anytime you would come over, like, you want to use the soap boxes? Yeah. So that was, and we were pretty good friends, he was my best friend. And then as I got older, I think what really happened was, I don't know how comfortable I am sharing this with everybody. But I became very aware of sexuality at a pretty young age. And my mind was very male in that way. I was just very aware, very curious of it. And so I understood, I looked at the world, and I still look at the world, and Camille Paglia talks about this, with the eyes of the male predator. I think people look at me and assume like, oh, she must just be this sweet little thing who doesn't know anything, but it's really the total opposite. I mean, I very, very much understand the draw of the visual. I very much understand the sex drive and all that stuff. I very much understand that to a level where I was terrified of men, because I felt as though, and I did not have a lot of stronger men in my life who had very good impulse control, because really what it comes down to with both men and women is their impulse control. Women, men are strong, weak, and women are weak, strong. Meaning, men they're physically strong, but I think a man he deals in the realm of the physical all the time. That's his forte. That's why we have buildings and why we have civilization and all that stuff, and why we are able to have food and tame animals, tame the earth, is because of the man's strength, his physical strength. But when it comes to his emotions, men are usually very out of tune with them. Or it's such a tender place for them that they would either rather not go there, or they break and then they do not repair as easily as women do. Women, on the other hand, are weak strong, which means their bodies are weaker than men. They just are. That's just the way that they are. And then they deal in the emotional realm all the time, and they have to learn how to heal from emotional wounds all the time, because that's their realm. They're dealing with children. They're dealing with relationships. And so it's two very different worlds that need to be combined, right? That's why the male and the masculine and feminine is so important to combine. And that's not to say that a woman can't have very masculine traits and still be a woman, and a man have feminine traits and still be a man. I think that's something that's just so lost in today's society, especially now with all the homosexual and transgender propaganda being pushed. It's actually pushing men and women further into these holes where the men feel like they can't share any feelings at all, because, well, if I say anything, I'm going to be seen as gay, and a woman can't be strong at all, because if she does, then she's seen as a lesbian, and yet at the same time they're encouraged to do both of those things, which is just anyway, it's very frustrating. But when I was younger, I was very so I was very hyperly sexually aware, and to the point where it was a terrifying thing, because I knew that was pretty much the one thing that men would want from a woman, and I just saw myself as, well, first of all, I saw myself as horribly dirty because of the way I thought about the world. And, there were so many different things going on too. I mean, your brain chemistry affects that. What you eat affects that. I noticed, significant amounts of relief when I changed the chemicals in my body and all that stuff. From intrusive thoughts, and that's a whole nother thing that I could go down. Well, I'll have to go down that route, I guess, if I'm going to talk about this. So very, 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 very aware of everything. And so when it came to boys, I had it was really weird, because I was so free with them when I was very little, and then it was just like after some experiences, I just became completely closed off, because I was like, you only see me as a thing. That's all you see me as, and you don't know all that's going on up here. Now, granted, there are some women who, they truthfully don't have a whole lot going on upstairs, but that doesn't mean that they're only a body, right? But men and women, they approach each other very differently, because the man feels like, well, surely, the physical wouldn't hurt her very much. I mean, it's just physical, right? And the woman feels like, well, surely the emotional won't hurt him, because it's only emotions. I deal with that all the time. But they don't understand that that's both their weak areas. So when a man comes to a woman and is very demanding of her physically, or the woman, feels like that's all that they want is just that, they don't care about who I am as a person, and they could easily go off with somebody else. Well, that is in a sense true, because, and it would be the same for women with the emotions, because both men and women have different survival mechanisms. The man must be able to move on, I believe, sexually from partner to partner, because in case of death, the life must be able to continue on. And for a woman, the emotions are her weakness, or are her strength, and so she has to be able to move on emotionally. And mostly that's because men typically die earlier than the woman does, which is why women are always after their loved one's health, because they're like, stay as long as possible, because I don't want to be by myself. But you always need to be willing to let people go and things go, because life, that's the cycle of life. So anyway, but men and women are constantly bumping into each other because of that. The man is like, I don't understand. It's only the physical. And the woman's like, that's everything to me. I need to be protected physically. Like, how can you not understand that? I'm weak and I am scared. And when a woman arrives into the world, she becomes aware, and this has been, I understand, it's been blown so out of proportion that men just go, oh, I just can't hear this one more time. But the woman will have fears that the man never will have to. Or I shouldn't say that. The man has less, okay? Because there are predatorial women, and there are predatorial men who prey on men. Nobody's exempt from, being preyed upon, either physically or sexually. It's the nature, it's human nature, and there are psychopaths out there. There are, so you have to be aware of that. You have to be smart. You have to learn to be streetwise. Camille Paglia, thank you, God. Okay, anyway, so back to the personal thing. When I was, so that was probably right around, I don't know, 6 or 7. That was when I was really just like, I don't trust boys. I don't trust men. Just like, everybody get away from me. For a myriad of reasons. Not all of which I can pinpoint. I just think the main reason was I did not want to be used sexually. I just did not want that. I was like, I cannot bear that. I cannot. And for a woman, we feel things in our bodies, I think, differently than men do. When we, men are made bigger and stronger. That's how God designed them. They're bigger and stronger. And women are a lot more frail, and so when something scares them or startles them or whatever, they become, the stress levels affect their body far more than it does a man. So, the man is like, I don't understand why you're so scared of that. And the woman is like, freaking out. And then the same goes for the woman with her emotions, and then the man with his emotions. The woman's like, oh, I know. I mean, talk. That's the realm that I deal. That's the realm that I deal in all the time. Emotions. And then the man, you give him one emotion, he's like, And it's not that one is better or worse. It's you have to have both, earth and sky, day and night. Mulan too. But yeah, so it's just a frustrating fight. And when I was in grade school and stuff like that, it's like I wanted to appreciate boys more, and I wanted to be their friend, but I couldn't get over that trust issue. And I think in today's world, there's not a whole lot of understanding of loyalty and honor on the man's part, and so women need and this is for men too, obviously, but women need loyalty, and they need to know that a man is going to stick by them, and that even if they fail them physically or whatever, that the man has their back and that they're protected. And then the woman will lavish the man with love. It's just how it is. It's like, oh, if you accept me for as I am, and you're like, I am loyal to you, sweetie, then we're like, oh, okay, we'll give everything away. But and I think the same for the man with his emotions. Like, he'll be very, very closed off until someone like kind of throws him a bone and is kind to him no matter what. We have to be kind to each other no matter what, and that's the hard part, because in today's world, people say, if somebody screws you over, you just leave, honey, because you deserve better. It's like, well, no, I don't. Like, no, we all have crappy attitudes. We all mess up. If we had that attitude, we would all leave ourselves, because there's no perfect person. And it's not about being perfect or being perfect for each other. And that's also why I think that when people use each other for sex before they have a legal bond between them that says, like, I ain't leaving no matter what, and like, of course there's extreme forms where it's like, if you're being like abused, especially physically, if you're being physically abused, then you do need to have that out, because it's just, I don't think that's acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, I would do it. I would stick it out with someone even if they did hit me. I mean, I would be, it would have to reach a really bad level. It'd be like, okay, if you broke a bone or whatever, okay, I really need to consider leaving. But even then, like, give them space, give them time, see if they can, work through whatever, wounds they have, because people hurt people. And then see if you can make it work. But because I really don't believe in giving up on people. I really don't. I mean, I am probably loyal to a fault. But I feel like that is so much better than leaving all the time, because everybody right now has abandonment issues. Like, there are boys and girls who are completely abandoned by their parents, and so they learn from a very early age, I am an inconvenience, and so that's why they glob onto each other. Like in middle school and high school, you see everybody just like sucking off each other's faces. They're like, what is wrong? And it's because they're I need your validation. I need it so badly. I will do whatever it takes to just be validated. And and others of us are a lot more just about sensations. Like, we're just a lot more about physical sensations, and we have to curb our impulse control. It's the same thing like when I think when women see a man who's a little bit out of control sexually, it's kind of like when a man sees a very overweight lady. It's like, well, I mean, you could be healthy in that area. It's going to take some work and it's going to take some impulse control, but like, don't you understand that you'll get a better response if you do have that impulse control? And men and women may never understand each other on that. You just have to meet each other halfway on that area, I think, because a man is never going to really be attracted to a very overweight woman, and I don't think a woman is really going to be that attracted to a man who is just like hypersexed to the point where it's just it loses its function. You know what I mean? So, if food loses its function, it's no longer a good thing. If sex loses its function, it's not really a good thing. If anything loses its function, it's no longer functional, and therefore it is, needs to be repaired. It's not that that thing is bad, or to be enjoyed or whatever, because food and sex are both to be enjoyed. It's just about finding the right amounts and the right times, and, just appropriate spaces for those things. Anyway, so back to personal stuff again. I think in middle school, and this is so funny. So for a while, I have like romance, and I have never really gotten along that well. It's only been probably the past, I don't know, maybe 2 years that I really was open to that. And that is solely because of God, because I felt like God said to me, you know what, there's probably someone out there, I'm going to rephrase that. There might be someone out there who needs you. Are you willing to do that? Because for so long I was like, I am a strong, independent woman. I do not need a man. The whole feminist thing, because I just didn't trust them, didn't want anything to do with them, and then God really showed me, men need women, not because they're worse or like you need to patronize them or anything. They need a woman to be their cheerleader, and because the man's journey is to become the best that he can be, and so it is for the woman, but the woman is kind of the sage, or the connecting piece. She's the one who's like, I saw this thing I love Pinterest. I love Pinterest to death. There was this thing called she's the oracle. She can be in a different realm than he can, with emotions and spiritual things that the man might struggle with. And, the same for the woman, or the man with the woman for the physical, because there's certain things in the physical realm that the woman just cannot do, and she will need the man to help her. So it's a symbiotic relationship where they both help each other. And I think one of the things that really was hard for me when I was younger was it was mostly that trust. That trust was just so broken, and I think that there's so much brokenness in families. There's brokenness from parents not paying attention to their children. That's the most important work you will ever do. I mean, if you are ever privileged enough to be called mommy or daddy, take it as serious as a death oath. I mean, it is like, so many people just want to have children for themselves and be like, pat Johnny on the head, and no. I mean, you are bringing another human soul into existence, and who knows what wonderful or terrible things they might do because of you. I mean, it's such a weighty responsibility, and I feel like parents are just like handing their children a phone, and I'm like, give your children to me, I'll raise them. Build me an orphanage and I'll raise them. Because they all need attention. They all need to know, what their gifts are. They all need to be loved. And that is the heart of God, is to come and adopt somebody and say, you are important. You're not the most important creature in the universe, and you are important because of what you can do and what you can give, but you are important. And, so many of these children are just being shuttled into schools and okay, I gotta focus. Yeah, so, but when I was probably in middle school, I remember there was somebody at my, it's always been the very small things because I never liked romance. The first crush I had, it was, I think I was probably 2 or 3, and it was this movie series that they showed at one of our churches that we used to go to, McGee and Me. And I was like, I have a very uncomfortable feeling in my tummy from that face, and I do not like it because I don't like being out of control. That's not my thing. But there in middle school there was a boy who wasn't like, I mean, I've never, attractiveness is a bonus, but I'm not like, that's not the main thing that I see, and people have a really hard time understanding that. But it's, I see the insides of people. I intuit everything. I don't care how chiseled your jaw is. Are you kind? Are you, do you have a soul that is going to last? Do you have what it takes to build a community, to live and prosper, and, your skin's going to sag. Like, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. But there was this kid across from me at a table, and like, I'm like, okay, I'm around boys, and I was homeschooled for a long time. We went to homeschool groups and things like that, but then my mom got sick, and there was just so much chaos going on at home. And we were sitting at this table. It was me and 2 other boys, and we were reading something in social studies, and it was something about polar bears, and we just started to laugh and laugh, and I was like, this is so nice. Like, I am laughing with a boy, and I don't feel attacked or threatened or anything, and I can enjoy like their boyishness, and I don't feel threatened. It was really nice. And so, don't tell me that childhood stuff doesn't matter, because every little, that is what builds you. That is why child programming is so important. Watch what your children watch. Be attentive to who their friends are. That's the building block of their soul. They will always go back to those things. Anyway, so it was just very sweet. And then there was a boy who asked me out, and well, he didn't really ask me out. There was a very sweet guy, and I probably totally scared him away. He was very, very, very shy, very painfully shy, very sweet. And he, the girl at our table, she was like, if so-and-so asked you out, would you say yes? And I mean, I have a very strict policy with myself. I'm like, well, okay. And I mean, back then I was like, I'm not going to date. It's middle school. That's stupid. Like, if you want to be my friend, sure, and I was very just rigid about it. It wasn't like anybody even told me to do that. It was just, I was like, that's just me. It's just the way I am. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, but I'm not going to date anybody, And he was just like, his face was just so crushed. And I was like, oh, they have feelings too, And so in my heart, I was like, okay, I'm going to really try from now on to like, remember that boys have feelings, and they're not just like scary monsters, they have feelings. And then from then on, it was a very slow journey of God showing me, that men are precious and special and important, and they're not the enemy. They are different, and they kind of have to be, I'd say men and women need to be reined in different areas, so it was like, you got to rein in this area, and then they rein you in this area. You both rein each other in, and you also make life exciting for each other. Oh gosh, it's been, what time is it? I gotta, okay, 3:15, okay. I know, this is gonna be a really long video, I'm sorry. Where was I going with this? And then it was a whole nother deal, kind of launching into my young adulthood of like, I went from like, no, I am not getting married. Because even when I was, well, first of all, when I was in grade school, like, if we were at a sleepover, I was like, my first rule was like, and we will not talk about boys. Like, that first ground rule. That was the way I was. Nobody told me to do that. It was no talk about boys. I mean, talk about the club where no boys allowed. I took that to the nth degree. I'm so sorry, young men. I'm sorry, men. But I just thought it was stupid. I was like, nope, you're going to be independent. You're going to be strong. You're going to think for yourself. You're going to make your own way, which I do think is very important for women to have something of their own. You know, I mean, be strong and independent, because your husband will need that if you marry, and your children will need that if you have children. And if you end up not being married or not having children, do you want to just be a little, oh, I wish I was married? No, that's stupid. You have things to do. There's stuff to get done. Like, the world will fall apart if people don't take action. So, you know, yes, being married is wonderful. Yes, having children is wonderful. But if you do not, there's a whole ton of stuff you can do that you can't do if you are married. You know, and I'm not saying that, you know, one is better than the other. It's just different, and you need to, what is your plan of attack? You know what I mean? World domination. What you gonna do, you know? So after that, I was still very adamant about I am not getting married, because first of all, I saw so much turmoil with my parents, and then the generations back. My grandmother was married 9 times. There are so many horror stories about things that went down in all of my extended family. And I was just like, don't really have any interest in that. Like, you know, if you've been blessed with stability in a family, like, go give that away. You know, if you feel like you can be a stable person for somebody, please don't waste that. Go give that to somebody else, because your wife or your husband and your children will thank you, because stability is amazing. Like, I can't tell you how many times I would have died to come home to a stable home. You know, and my home was unstable because of illness and other things, but you know, that rattling in a marriage is horrible, you know, and most people nowadays just sever the relationship, and that's even worse, because it's like a death, you know, that children are not allowed to mourn. And it splits their psyche, you know what I mean? It's incredibly damaging, and parents can be so selfish, it just makes me want to weep, because they don't see what they're doing to their kids. And you know, life is not about your own personal happiness, honey. You know, and I'm not saying that you should be miserable, but you know, if there's a way to work past your things, and most people are just not willing to sit in their sad places and look at their wounds and get them healed. You know, or they ignore certain things, and then, you know, those things have caused damage somehow in their psyche and who they are, and they're not willing to look at them. And I remember very purposefully, I said, God, I want to look at everything, because I've seen the damage that was done, you know, in this family, in this family, in this family. My aunt, whom everyone said, like, oh, you're just like your aunt. My aunt was morbidly obese, had a horrible marriage, you know, all these things. And I was like, that will repeat itself if I am not very, very careful. And so, you know, I was just I was able to be a very purposeful person. That is not, I don't feel like that's of me. I feel like that's of God, you know. And so, that's the way I was designed. I was designed to be purposeful, and I am here to make changes. Not that I'm the most important person in the world. Everybody's here to make changes. Everybody's here to be purposeful. You have to embrace it. So I was very adamant, though, about I am not getting married. I will not put my heart through that. I can do so much more on my own, which might even be true. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, you know, only God knows that. And so, but then I remember there was a day, everything happens in like kind of epiphanies for me. And there was a day when because there were a couple guys who like weren't really my boyfriends, but like were my boyfriends. I don't know. But there was a day when, kind of before all that, when I really felt like God asked me and said, are you willing to marry if I bring someone to you? And I sat with that for a really long time, and I pretty much just said, no, I'm not. I am not willing to do that. Then I went through a phase where I was excessively manic, and when you have bipolar, and I went through this phase where I was having such terrible intrusive thoughts, and they were all sexual. It was the worst, some of the worst torment that I can ever describe. I mean, it was awful. It was like me doing horrible things to my friends, to my family, to children. It was just awful. It was terrible. And that was because of stress levels rising, and a lot of it had to do with because my dad was very, very abusive and attacking my mom, and I felt like I was the main protector, and then I, as a weaker, women they're called the weaker vessel in biblical terms, but we're just weaker physically, so I couldn't handle it, and it was like it totally broke me. And then I found myself becoming highly attracted to women, which was something that it had spiked like once or twice in my younger days, probably because of something that happened in my childhood, but I became very attracted to women. So I understand perfectly what men see in women. I understand it absolutely perfectly. And it like I could have gone down that path, and had I continued down that path, I would be a purple-haired lesbian. I know it, and the one thing that really held me back was I knew that even though I might see, this is the dangerous thing about human sexuality. We can enjoy because it's a sensation, and we don't have we're not like animals where we have certain seasons for things. Like, this is the mating season, this is the food season, this is the hibernation season. We don't have that. We're completely sentient and able to embrace the world for all that it is, and we're fully aware of ourselves. We're aware of what makes us happy. We're aware of what makes us feel good, and so we go after the things that make us feel good. And the thing is that there is a design. See, this is where believing in God really makes a big difference, is that there is a design that you can see in the world that if you follow close to that design, things always end up lining up better. And I like to call it cosmic interpersonal linearity. But if you think about it, I'm going to draw it. So if you have a line like this, and it's a crooked line, I'm sorry, because I can't draw a straight line. But if you have a line like this, and you are trying to get to, it's like a firing line, right? When there's a target right over here, okay? And you're trying to get to that firing line. If you start here, but you shoot off that way, did you hit the target? No. Oh, you can't even see. There you go. If you start over here and you shoot this way, nope, you still didn't hit it. There's only one way to hit the bullseye. There's only one way to do that. And that hitting that bullseye, it's like in life, hitting that bullseye is, are the people around me healthy, happy, and, productive? And the best way possible to do that is to be loyal, to, stay, it's been tested. I mean, stay married if you have children, especially because the rate of children who are successful in married families is so much higher than those in divorced families. It's mind-blowing. And people who can sacrifice and have strong marriages are happier in the long run than people who, give up. And, we know in our human spirit that life is about toughness and not giving up, but we don't like that because it's hard, and we're aware, the animals aren't aware. They just do the tough stuff all the time. We are aware, and we're like, I'm not going to do that. That's hard. That's painful, So, but I knew the design, and I knew if I go into that place, I am going away from the design, which is towards life, because, even physically, you can't bear your own children, right? If you're in a same-sex relationship. So nature itself is trying to show you that, and I absolutely love homosexuals. Do not get me wrong. I am not, I always feel like I have to defend myself, but I'm not homophobic. I've had, friends who are homosexuals, and I love them to pieces. But that's something that every homosexual has to deal with. And even Milo talks about that. He says, that's something that, I love Milo. Mwah, love you. But anyway, so I knew that it was going off the path of nature, going off the design, and I knew that my soul, even if my body and my mind and everything else was happy, which typically same-sex relationships have a lot of problems that we're not free to talk about those anymore because they're pushing that agenda on us so hard that it's something to be glorified. I think that, if people want to be in a relationship like that, they should absolutely be allowed to. Where I draw the line is when it's with children, because I don't believe that children can consent, even if they say that they're consenting, because and then this is another thing about why sexuality can be so off, is because people can enjoy having sex with animals, people can enjoy having sex with children, people can have fetishes about objects. I mean, it's like, it doesn't stop. Okay, so because we just want pleasure at any price. So you have to look at, okay, where does life go? Where can we make life? Where can we start seeing productivity? Where do we start seeing the body being healthier? And that's in a relationship that is loving and long lasting, and I would say between a man and a woman. And so it's horribly, it's very simple, but it's very tricky to talk about in today's world. And I think that with men and women, men are like, well, but it's like almost more natural for me to just have multiple partners. And I think women do the same thing emotionally. And so they, men might have like physical affairs and women might have emotional affairs, but both, you're not meeting each other halfway, because the man's like, hey, I gave you my heart. And the woman's like, hey, I gave you my body, So you need to be able to go, oh, that's what's important to you. Oh, and that's what's important to me. Oh, okay. And then come together. What else? But anyway, but I could have totally gone down that path. And I would have been someone who was very championing of, social justice warriors. And, I might have been a conservative in some areas, but I totally would have been one of those purple-haired feminists who really, really disliked men very strongly. Like borderline hated them. Because I just didn't trust, and it really was God and and through Jesus, because Jesus was a man, and he has been my best friend since forever. You know what I mean? So people don't understand about my relationship with Jesus, and that's totally fine. But it's kind of like in Doctor Who, like when the doctor comes in as TARDIS, I mean, what do? I mean, you leave everything else behind, because what he shows you is more amazing than what anybody could show you ever. And that's not to say you don't have other relationships and whatnot, but you don't just leave your doctor, and Jesus was my doctor, and he's mended my heart so many times. And, there's so many proofs of his existence in the physical world, in the spiritual world, in the realms of science, and everything has been covered up. You know what I mean? If you don't believe the media, good for you. Don't believe the school system either. And everybody thinks, how could so many people be wrong? Well, there's only a few people at the top who are controlling everything, and they tell everybody what to think and what to do. So if you don't like being told what to think or what to do, be thinking, be wise, because people, it's the masses who say that God and Jesus and all that stuff isn't real, and even just spirituality or whatever. But do your own research, you know what I mean, as you should do with anything else. Test things for yourself, ask God if he's real, you know what I mean. Yeah, so I would be a purple-haired feminist, but thankfully God softened my heart and continues to soften my heart, continues to give me understanding of things. Do I do things perfectly? No, because I'm a failed human being, and I will always be that way. But I can get better, I can get stronger, I can learn to be more understanding, and I wish that men knew how deeply women want their man to protect them. And I don't know where this whole fight ends. I mean, the whole feminist agenda was really pushed by people who, like, most women didn't want it. You know what I mean? It was pushed by very few people because they saw that they could tear down the family and split men and women up and cause all this dissension, because they wanted to control people and control the population. And it's just quite sad. They just couldn't leave well enough alone and have people be in their individual families. They had to rip the children away. They had to rip the husband and wife apart, keep men and women all separate. You know, it's just, it breaks my heart. But because it was the feminists who kind of, you know, stirred the pot, and they are represented by women, I feel that women have an obligation now to be honorable and to treat men with decency and respect, and show men that we do want and we do need you. Not in a clingy way, not in anything like that. But to raise men up again and say, you are important and you are special, you are needed, and don't quit. And I am so sorry for all the hurt that we women have inflicted on you. And, you know, understand that we are frightened and we are scared. And when we are frightened and scared, we poof up our feathers and we get really feisty, and we get really catty. And then what you do sometimes is you go, fine. And, and then you start hitting us and, using us. And, if that's what you want, that's what you get. And it's a fight on the playground, where the girls get really, angsty, and then the boys get angsty back, and nobody's friends and everybody's hurting, and so it takes self-discipline, and I think it takes the love of God for both of us, because honestly, come on, both of us can be crazy. Both men and women, men see all the flaws in women and go, oh my God, and women see the flaws in men and go, oh my God. But we need each other, and we complete each other, and we have to end this war, this world war that's going on between the sexes. So if it takes someone laying down and dying, I'll do that, because that's what Jesus did for me. He laid down his life so that I could be united with the love of God. And what human beings want more than anything else, more than food, more than shelter, more than anything, which doesn't make any sense except for the fact that God created us to be loved by him and to love each other. We crave and we run on love. And that's about it. What does a child want the most from his father? To be loved. And what does a daughter want? To be loved. And what does a wife want? To be loved. And what does a husband want? To be loved, and whatever that means to them. And, finding how to be healthy together and finding how to love each other. It's a long, turbulent, sometimes unfun, sometimes wonderful journey. But that is what it means to be alive and to live, is to start engaging in those deep, those hard to get, it's like doing surgery on each other. It's extremely painful, and it's very difficult, and it takes patience, and sometimes you accidentally cut each other and all that stuff, but that is what is required in today's age. So I'm really sorry for the long video, but I'm not. I don't know if I'll cut it. I don't know. I don't think I have the patience with myself to go back through. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Well, it's done, and that is my opinion, and people can yell at me for it, but I'm just going to be here doing what I hope to be right. So, thank you guys for watching. If you watched it all the way through, you must be crazy.